incentive for modders to create them either. You look at how many people actually play with potatoes. Typically you're limited to watching YouTubers or streamers and seeing what they do, but it's vanishingly rare that anybody ever does potatoes. It's kind of rare that people do sugar beets too. Oh, that's a weed, not a thing, not a top. So what's the incentive to actually create? Yeah, I'm guessing there's something. Wheat, barley, what is it? Wheat, barley, oats. Corn needs a different header, but it's also a cereal crop. Adding things like triticale and spelt to the mix, it's a different texture of, effectively, to add it to the game, it's a different texture of wheat with maybe a different mod on the amount, or multiplier on the amount of seed it takes to plant, and a different value. But functionally, spelt is wheat with just a different thing, different texture. And you can do the same with sort of linseed is sunflowers with a different texture. Programmatically, all you're doing is changing the skin of the crop. But potatoes are not the same as sugar beets. To add carrots and onions, they've effectively said carrots and onions are, I think, effectively sugar beets. So treat them the same as that. And so theoretically, you should be able to add carrots and onions to a sugar beet harvester without a problem. Although typically I think harvesters that do sugar beets and onions tend to be more akin to a potato harvester than a sugar beet harvester. And that's my opinion on observation of YouTube videos. But it's having the functionality there to support that type of crop. That's not necessarily an easy thing for a modder to do, because you're relying on far too much embedded in the programming. We're already finding that clover is not grass. You can mow it, so it's harvested by a mower, but that's really all. That's really where the similarity ends. Balers can bale it, but bale wrappers, while they work with it, don't work well with it. The Anderson extractor does not accept clover bales, and probably doesn't accept alfalfa bales or any other types of bales. It only accepts grass bales. Obviously it doesn't accept hay bales, because you can't wrap hay in the game. In real life you can. And clover's interaction with seasons, it doesn't rot when it rains, and it doesn't rot over time as just clover. Clover hay doesn't rot when it rains on it. And to make clover hay, you don't ted it a couple of times and then wait for it to dry. you have to just keep tedding it until it turns into clover hay. It's not the same as grass. It probably should be, but I think there isn't the handles in the programming code to allow you to add a different type of grass to the game and have it functionally work like grass. So clover is separate from grass. Also grows slower than grass. You can get 3 grass harvests a year. You can only get 2 clover. I think we might have. We might modify our observations of clover come next year, because obviously I didn't plant those fields. What am I trying to say? They weren't planted on the first day of spring, so, or already planted, should I say? So they lost a day of growth. It might be that we can manage 3 cuts of clover, but for this first year, they weren't available for harvest until the first day of spring, and they weren't available first day of summer. Sorry, and they weren't available for harvest until first day of autumn after that. And so the grass was available a day earlier. But I don't know if having clover growing or not growing, being dormant during December, whether it will grow with sufficient time to harvest it on the last day of spring as opposed to the first day of summer.
Sugar beets.
Yeah.
Isn't there supposed to be that equipment thing?
Yeah, and that gets in the way when you're doing this. So. Yeah. As she pointed out, I could be hauling the harvester. Well, not with this tractor because we just don't have the horsepower to haul it. But trying to do turnarounds at the end of the field just slows down the whole process. So it's just easier to do this with a small tractor. I mean, I haven't, 9 miles an hour, I haven't had to stop. I think the harvester only runs at 7. So we'd be doing this slower. Then we would have the problem that because the harvester is behind the tractor and the topper's in front of the tractor, going around corners, the harvester is not following precisely the lead that the header's following. So the harvester ends up destroying part of the crop. So speed and efficiency. We can do this at 9 miles an hour. And once you get to harvesting, I really don't care how fast the harvester goes because it's going to get slowed down by how fast I can trek the sugar beets back to the farm. And this field is kind of a long way to drive. So, and I can't. I've tried using Courseplay. It's the main reasons I pulled in Courseplay was to do some of the fields harvests while I carted, but Courseplay was having problems with the field edge definitions, and so I just gave up with it. Now, it would be kind of nice to be able to cart, but without the silo extension, I have to tip the sugar beets into hard standing, and for that you kind of have to do it manually rather than letting a course play tractor take care of it. Now with the silo extension, I could do a couple of tractors on karting duty, on automatic karting duty as a course play setup. I could have a harvester running on a regular helper, but I need something to do while all that's going on. And maybe what I will do is get another karting trailer, and then what I can do is fill up the cart, or fill up 2 carts, and then use a follow me to haul it all back to the farm. That might make things a little bit quicker. Where's the moisture is still too high to harvest. Still only 9 o'clock. As I said, I reckon we've probably got to wait until about 11 o'clock before the crop is dry enough to actually harvest. And then also I've got the problem of harvesting 2 different types of crop. I kind of don't mind this being slow. I can set a worker off on this, harvest what I can, or harvest as it goes, and just come back to do the carting whilst I'm sunflower harvesting, because I prefer that to driving a tractor up and down a field with a sugar beet harvester. Truth be told. As I said, obviously we need this for the sheep, but we don't need a lot. And you do get, in this field, I'm reckoning we'll probably have about 500,000 litres of sugar beets, of which 30,000 needs to be saved for the coming year as sheep food. Maybe more, but I'm harvesting this early fall, so I just need enough sugar beets to last me 1 year from today, and we still have, I think, half of what we saved from last year. So 15,000 litres of sugar beets for half a year of sheep. Have to go full year, 30,000 will possibly be sufficient to get me to this time next year. We might get a little bit close. I don't think I have the ability to store buy sugar beet crates, so we'll figure that out. Well, I might end up going 1 or 2 days with insufficient sugar beets. It's not like they need a lot of it. And maybe I stop feeding them sugar beets at the beginning of summer once they stop producing wool, and then towards the end of summer go back to feeding sugar beets so that their health increases again in time for making new sheep. So, well, I don't think it's drastic if I don't save enough, but the income from it is, we get a couple of 100,000 pounds off 500,000 litres of sugar beets, and we don't get nearly that amount. I think I'll probably check it in a minute. finish this row and so all our fields of triticale, I think I'm rolling backwards. Triticale, rye and spelt are the options. So we have 305,000 litres and that's 150,000. Sugar beets, potentially we're going to end up with 500,000. So 200,000 I guess, maybe. But it is going to be a good level of income coming out of that. That first year, 1 million litres of sugar beets, that's, yeah, I think we made about 300,000 pounds off that, and that bought lots of new fields, better equipment. And that triticale is off how big are those fields? Lizard timber swap body. Interesting. There. The triticale came off this field, which is 5 hectares, and this field, which is 9. So 15 hectares, we're pulling 5 hectares to make 500,000 litres, as opposed to 15 for 300,000 litres. So, if I planted triticale on this field, I'm looking at 100,000 litres. So 50,000 income from this field, whereas with sugar beets I'm probably looking at about 200, 250. I'm just not planting all my fields with sugar beets because it's a big thing. I suppose if I bought the harvester, I could actually think about doing a sugar beet, a full sugar beet harvest. I don't have the storage for it. 1 million litres of sugar beets is my capacity. Whether I tip it on the floor or stick it in the silos right now. So I don't really want to be messing around with 2 million, 3 million litres because I just don't have the storage for it. And even getting specific, putting another extension on the barn or something like that, it's still a major headache. And the best time to sell it again is, I think, the middle of winter, not when you're we're harvesting it today. I'm gonna save it for 3 months, 9 days before I even consider selling it for the best price. So you have to hold on to it for all that time. We've still got a ton of this to do. Oops, missing bits. Fine. Okay. I really need to reconsider my strategy with the weeds, I think. The thing, weeds are, minus 15% yield, something like that. But we're still looking at a good 80-85% of the field has no weeds on it. The problem is these weeds are now established. So next year we will get these next year we will get all of these weeds, plus potentially more. So I might put cereal crop in this field, because I can plant that before winter. Then I could put herbicide down just before winter. Well, technically you should probably do it just after winter. But I could put herbicide down just before winter. And then I won't get any more weeds in this field until I harvest it again. Because playing the programming rules of seasons, you only get weeds where you haven't put herbicide down. And herbicide is down if you spray the entire field at least until you harvest it. And harvest does include cutting with a mower if you're doing grasses. So you really have to consider handling the weeds at least once a year on grass fields. I think it's probably good practice to handle weeds once a year on every field. Look at that. That there is new weed growth. Although technically that shouldn't be new weed. It's new weeds within the last couple of days. It's not new weeds since I last went round, I don't think. Because this field does not count as harvested at this point. All we're doing here is topping it, which turns it from from needs to be topped to ready to harvest state. Got 251,000. I'm going to have to do some research in how much we're going to be spending on potato harvesting equipment. I think that's going to cost us about 120,000 thereabouts. What I'm not sure about is does this topper work on potatoes as well as sugar beets? If this topper works on potatoes, we can just use this on the potato field and be happy. If it doesn't, I'm going to have to go and buy a potato topper as well, which is probably only about 30,000. But the harvesting equipment we're buying is incredibly cheap, so I'm happy about that. Let's do that. So, potatoes. Seed planter, that thing. So that's only 10,000. So I don't know. I don't know if this one, 22,000, and an arrow working width also works like this one does on potatoes. But once we've topped it, I'm planning on buying this, which is the harvester, which has a windrower or rower at the back, so you go down the field one way and it drops potatoes out this side, you come back the other way, doubling that potato swath. This one, yeah, it's nice, but it just, oops, is that the same one as I just looked at? This one has the same width, but it just drops them out at the back, so you're going to have to go up and down the field twice with this thing. and that's 12, that's 88, so call it 100. We'll be able to harvest the potatoes for less than 100,000, as opposed to 500,000. And again, a good amount of income from that. What I've got to be careful about is not to sell the potatoes before I've replanted the field, because it's much cheaper to use the crop that you harvested than it is to buy seed potatoes and plant those. And we're using realistic seeder mods, so we have to buy seed potatoes. I've still got a couple of seed potatoes left, so it's not all that bad. I have to figure out when I can plant them too. I think you have to plant them in spring. Okay, I think I'm going to need to take a quick break, get a drink, and go use the facilities. Is this what we call manual labour? Just a little. I'm just going to stick this on a helper for a couple of minutes while I go and deal with calls of nature and the like. So you go there and helper on. Okay, I'll be back in a few minutes. In the meantime, talk amongst yourselves. Okay,